Breaking news out of the Low Country today. Moncks Corner, South Carolina was the site as Judge Robert Young dismissed the Michael Colucci murder case, now the second dismissed case of this trial. If you don't know everything about it or have forgotten some of the details, I'm going to catch you up to speed. May 20th, 2015, Sarah Colucci is found hanging by a garden hose on a fence near the business that Mr. Colucci, Michael Colucci, owned. May 4th of 2016, he is then charged with her murder. It was originally ruled a suicide. He's now charged with murder in this case. Michael gets high-powered juggernaut defense attorney Andy Savage, as anyone would or should if they're facing these types of charges, and they prepare to go to court. That court case runs about 2 weeks, and it ends in a hung jury because they were deadlocked. The juries did unanimously vote no for murder, but manslaughter, I've heard reports anywhere from 10 no's and 2 yeses to 8 no's and 4 yeses. Either way, is still heavily favored of him being not guilty, but it was not unanimous, so that case was dismissed. They could come back and retry him, as I said, and they did. That case just kicked off this week, Monday, but then Tuesday, shocking turn of events, it's dismissed again. Why is it dismissed? Let's break this down. Robert Young dismissed the case and said this was a clear case of misconduct and not how justice is served. Andy Savage's legal team has often said that there was exculpatory evidence that was hidden, even from the very first trial, and that was brought out to light. And this is pretty damning evidence because it concerned Barbara talking to her daughter, Sarah Moore Colucci, at her home. This is weeks, if not days, before this incident. She found her in a very emotional state, and Sarah told her that if it wasn't for her kids, she would just hang herself. Now, obviously, this is, going to raise some eyebrows because she was found hanging by a garden hose. Now, Gary Owen, the lead investigator, said that she did not tell her this. Barbara said she did testify that this conversation was had. Those words were said, but, somehow that got missed and didn't make it into the courtroom. But it got in there now. If you're wondering, hey, where do I know that name Gary Owen from? Well, he was highly involved in the Murdaugh trial, and there was some, holes and some things that he did there too. So you can look up to that. It's not really pertaining to this, but that's where you might know that name, Gary Owen. Now, this is also important. This case was dismissed without prejudice. That's key because technically they could come back and charge Mr. Colucci for a third time. However, in doing so, they would have to resubmit evidence to a grand jury for an indictment. They would have to rearrest him. And that's now having to overcome some serious credibility issues because you have really screwed your credibility all the way up with hiding this through the first trial and basically hiding it for almost 10 years, allowing all these things to take place. And you hid this key portion of evidence. And I mean, let's be honest, folks, they hid this because it didn't fit the narrative they were trying to shape, that this lady would in no way, shape, form, or fashion consider unaliving herself. So by entering that into evidence, that puts doubt in the jury's mind. And by hiding that, it makes you think that there was even a chance that she did it, because why else would you hide it? Now, I do not know neither, or did not know neither Sarah, nor do I know Michael. I'm not advocating for his innocence nor guilt. I'm advocating for a fair trial. This is a case of which he did not receive here because they hid exculpatory evidence. So that is why this case was dismissed. It did not have a damn thing to do with bribery. I've seen that being posted in comments that he paid off a judge, or it was a good old boy system. This was their second crack at trying to put this man in jail for unaliving his wife. He's not a favorite of anyone in that judicial system. I promise you, he's not on the Christmas list. Okay. This was the second time. That's even kind of rare to do that. It was no favoritism involved. This was all lawyer work by a paid attorney, Andy Savage. And folks, let me tell you something. If you find yourself in a situation where you're facing multiple years, or if not life in prison, you want the best lawyer money can buy. You're not going to go to the damn Yelp pages and just pick up the first lawyer you see. And if you're in this situation, there's one name that you call. There's one number that you dial. Andy Savage is here. Everybody else is below him. That is the guy you call. That is who Michael called. And that is why he is now a free man, because nobody knows the law and knows how to fight it better than Andy Savage. I know this personally. And everybody's in the comments, well, you had to get Andy Savage because you were guilty, and you had to do this. And, he defends guilty people. Listen, you don't know who's guilty. We can't just throw people in jail off a hunch or off a theory. There's 1,000 people in the comments saying he's guilty of doing this, and none of you was there. So you don't know shit. You don't know if he did it or not. Again, I'm not saying innocent. I'm not saying guilty. That's not for me to judge. I was not there. I don't know him. I've got no say so in the fight. But what I do know is if 1,000 people that are saying he's guilty was there, your ass would be in court testifying. You weren't. So let the prosecution play out. He went and got a good lawyer, because that's what you do when your life is hanging in the balance. So again, I'm not advocating for guilt or innocence. I'm saying if you want to put somebody in jail, you have to do it the right way. In this case, it was not done the right way. Evidence was hidden. Had Michael been found guilty in that first trial and this come out now, it would be a mistrial. He would be out of jail and they'd be doing this all over again. So that is why this case was dismissed. Nothing to do with bribery, nothing to do with favoritism, nothing to do with any of that, nothing to do with skin color, nothing to do with privilege. It is straight up misconduct of why this was dismissed. Again, he can be charged again if they want to do so, but you have seriously damaged your credibility by withholding this evidence. It will be very hard to overcome that. I seriously doubt it happens, but it still remains to be seen. At this point, Mr. Colucci is a free man to go and do whatever he wants. He's not on any sort of confinement. He doesn't have a bond. He is a free man unless they try to charge him again. That is the update, and that is the clear, most basic answer that I can give you of why this case was dismissed. Tune in for Crime and Entertainment for more stories like this.